You walk into a car dealership and believes that he is about to improve his quality of life. New car, technology, comfort, status. You work hard, so it makes sense to drive something better. But there's a detail that almost nobody notices. Millions of Americans are driving cars from $50,000, $60,000, up to $70,000. And at the same time, they are completely broken. They have a new car in the garage, but they don't have any money in the account. They seem fine, but they are stuck making monthly payments for years. That's why today I'm going to show you how car financing has become one of the biggest financial traps for the American middle class. And when you understand the mathematics behind it, you'll notice that, in most cases, you didn't buy a car. You bought a debt that follows you every day. My name is Rex, and today you're going to understand why millions of people are paying for cars they should never have bought. Look how this story always begins. You go into the dealership just to take a look. No pressure, no commitment. Just look at the cars. And in just a few minutes, you're already sitting inside a car that's far superior to what you planned. Giant screen, leather seats, system them as premium. The smell of a new car. Everything was perfect. And at that moment, something very specific happens. You stop thinking about the price and begins to think about the sensation. You think, this is on another level. Now I'm really making progress. I deserve this. Now pay attention to the next step. The salesman arrives, a smile on her face, and he asks a question that seems innocent. But it is one of the most dangerous in the financial world. How much do you want to pay per month? It is not. What is the value of the car? It is not. How much will this cost in total? And how much does your month fit into? And this is where the trap begins. Because the human brain wasn't designed to think about large numbers. He thinks in installments. $500 a month seems okay. $600 still seems possible. $700, it can be adjusted. And suddenly, a car of $70,000. It's starting to seem affordable. Now, let Rex show you what's really going on. You're not buying a car. You are entering into a commitment of 5, 6, or even 7 years. And here's a simple comparison. Buying a car on credit is like signing up for a gym membership. But instead of $50 a month, you're paying $700 for years. Now add it all up. $700 per installment, $200 in insurance, 150 pounds of gasoline, $100 for maintenance. You are spending more than $1,100 a month, every month, to direct. Now think about it. $1,100 a month is more than many people invest, a huge portion of the income, money that could be used to build wealth. But instead, it's being used to maintain something that loses value every day. Now let Rex be direct with you. The problem never starts with the car. The problem starts with the decision. Because at this moment, you are not buying logically. You're buying with emotion. And the entire dealership system was designed for that. Light, music, environment, pressure, urgency. This condition is only valid today. Last unit. This rate won't last. It's a psychological game. And it works. But this is where the story starts to get interesting. Because after you leave the dealership, with the key in hand, that's where reality begins. And this reality has a simple name. Monthly payment. The biggest financial illusion in the car market. Now the story gets even more interesting. Because after you leave the dealership, the only thing that truly matters begins to emerge. The monthly installment. And here is the most powerful trick in the whole system. You don't think about the car anymore. You think about the payment. You think, okay, $700 a month, I can do that. And that seems reasonable. But let Rex show you what's going on behind this comfortable parcel. $700 a month for 5 years. This gives something close to $42,000. Now stretch that out to 6 years. We're already talking about more than $50,000. And in many cases, the original car cost much less than that. Now add the interest, fees, embedded insurance, extended warranties, and suddenly, a $70,000 car can easily turn into a commitment of $90,000 or even $100,000. You bought a car and paid another one just in interest. Now let Rex use a simple comparison. Paying car installments is like having a leak in your pocket. The money goes out every month, non-stop, without pause, without rest. Now, think about the impact this will have on your life. $700 a month. They could be investments, emergency fund, business entry, or simply freedom. But instead, this money is tied up in something that loses value every day. Now, pay attention to this part. You believe you are making a smart choice because the installment fits within your budget. But what you don't see is that you're jeopardizing years of your financial life in something that doesn't build wealth. That's why millions of Americans spend years working without ever leaving the same place. Because a large part of the money they earn, it already has a definite destination. Now let Rex show you something that few people notice. A car is not just an expense, it creates a domino effect. Because when you have a high installment, your entire financial life needs to adapt to it. You avoid investing, avoid taking risks, avoid changes. You're stuck with a fixed income. And that's how a simple decision, it begins to control various other areas of your life. But here comes the even more critical part. Because even after paying for years, the story doesn't have a happy ending. In truth, this is where many people realize they've fallen into the trap. And in the next chapter, you will understand why the car you bought, it's never worth what you paid for it. Now comes one of the most important parts to understand. Because while you're paying the installment, something is happening silently. The value of your car is falling. Fast. Much faster than most people imagine. Now, pay attention to this. The moment you leave the dealership, the car is already losing about 20% of the value. Instantly, you just paid $70,000. And in a matter of minutes, the car then becomes worth something close to 50-something thousand. You haven't even finished driving home yet, and has already lost thousands of dollars. Now think about it. You financed $70,000, but the car is worth much less than that. This creates a problem with a simple name, negative equity, i.e., you owe more than the car is worth. It's like buying something for $70,000 and owe $90,000. Now let Rex show you how this evolves. First year, sharp drop in value. Second year, it continues to fall. Third year, even lower. And over time, the car continues to depreciate. About that, you keep paying. Now look at the irony. You're paying interest in something that is losing value. Every day. Non-stop. Now let Rex use a simple comparison. It's like trying to fill a leaky bucket and still have to pay someone to hold the bucket. It doesn't make sense, but millions of people do this every day. Now pay attention to this part. Many people believe they are investing in a better car. But a car is not an investment. Car is expense, and one of the most expensive. Now consider the following scenario. You want to sell the car after a few years. Go to the market, make an assessment, and you discover that the car is worth much less than you thought. But the debt is still there. You still owe the bank. And sometimes, he owes more than he can sell the car for. And this is where many people get caught in an even worse cycle. Because the solution that appears seems simple. Change cars. To obtain new financing. Refinance. And that leads us directly to the next trap, one of the most common and also one of the most dangerous, the endless cycle of changing cars. And in the next chapter, you will understand why many people spend their entire lives paying for a car without ever stopping. Now we come to one of the most dangerous traps in the car market. And the most impressive thing? It seems like a solution. You've been paying for the car for several years now. The installment still weighs heavily. The car doesn't look so new anymore, and you think, perhaps it's time for a change. And that seems logical. You go back into the dealership. The salesperson looks at your current car, make an assessment, and it says something like, "We can take your car as a trade-in." But there's a detail that almost nobody notices. You still owe money on that car, and the amount you owe is greater than the value of the car, i.e., you are negative. Now, pay attention to what happens next. The seller doesn't tell you that you're at a disadvantage. He says, "No problem, we'll figure it out." And it really does solve the problem. But not in the way you imagine. They take the debt you still have and they place it within the new financing. This is called rolling debt. Rolling over debt. Now you're no longer just paying for a car. You are paying the new car, the debt from the old car, all together in the same contract. And suddenly, a $70,000 car becomes an even bigger loan. Now, let Rex show you the impact of that. You change cars. Do you think your life has improved? But in reality, it only increased the debt. And this cycle can happen multiple times. Replacement, refinance, swap again, refinance again. And when you realize you spent years, sometimes decades, paying for a car without ever stopping, it's like running on a treadmill that increases in speed every time you try to get off. You run faster, try harder, but it never gets anywhere. How many people do you know who always have a new car, always have a Porsche, but they never seem to build wealth? This is no coincidence. That's the system. And it works very well. The problem is the cycle. Because this cycle creates something far more dangerous than debt. He creates financial dependence. Dependence on a constant income. Salary dependency. Dependence on stability. And that's exactly what traps millions of people in the financial maze. But we haven't yet reached the deepest point of this trap, because there's a psychological reason that makes people keep doing it. You will understand why the car has become one of the greatest status symbols and how this directly influences financial decisions. The truth is that most financial decisions, they are not mathematics, they are emotional. And the car is one of the greatest examples. But in practice, the car became a symbol of success, a symbol of progress, a status symbol. You arrive at work in a brand new car. People are staring. They comment. They ask, "New car? Congratulations." Now think about social media. Photos, videos, stories. Everything points to a certain lifestyle. And the car is part of that. He is funded. Now let Rex be direct. Many people don't buy expensive cars because they need them. Buy because you want to. It seems like it's going well. And this creates a dangerous cycle. You increase your income and immediately improve your lifestyle. Better car, better house, increased consumption. And in the end, the wealth remains in the same place. Now pay attention to this. Do you believe you are making financial progress? Because you're consuming better things. But in reality, you're just increasing your fixed costs. That is why millions of people earn more money over the course of their lives, and they remain without financial freedom. Now, let Rex use a simple phrase that sums it all up. Many people try to appear rich and end up poor trying. This is one of the most common traps, because it doesn't look like a trap. It looks like progress. Now think about it. How many financial decisions have you seen made to impress other people? And the worst part, often people you don't even know very well. Or maybe he doesn't even like it. Now let Rex tell you something interesting. People who truly build wealth, they rarely need to prove that to anyone. They focus on investments, assets, freedom, not in appearance. And that's exactly what we're going to connect in the next chapter. Because now is the time to understand the real impact of this decision. How much does a car really cost throughout your life? And when you see that bill, you'll realize that the problem isn't just the car. It's what you stopped building because of him. Now comes the part that really changes the game. Because up to this point, you have seen installment fees, depreciation, status. But there is a cost that most people never calculate. The cost of what you stopped building. Now pay attention to this. You pay approximately $700 a month in a car. It seems normal. It seems like part of life. And you believe that this is simply the price of driving something better. A comfort. A reward for your work. But that money could be working for you. And this is where the math gets interesting. $700 a month for 5 years. This gives something close to $42,000. Now imagine that same amount being invested every month for years. With average market return, this money could grow, to multiply, to become an asset. Now, imagine this over 10, 15, 20 years. We're not talking about 40,000 anymore. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in some cases, more than $1 million over a lifetime. Now, let Rex be direct. You're not just paying for a car. You are exchanging future wealth for immediate comfort. Each installment paid today is an investment you didn't make. Now let Rex use a simple comparison. Buying an expensive car with financing is like planting money in soil where nothing grows. Most people don't become poor because of one big decision. One becomes poor because of small decisions repeated over time. Imagine two people. One pays $700 a month for a car. The other one invests the same amount. After 20 years, different realities. Now, let Rex connect this to something bigger. The problem was never just the car. The problem is the standard. Consume before you build. Spend before investing. To seem before to be. And that's exactly what keeps millions of people trapped. But now we come to an important point. Because there is a way out of this trap. It's not about never owning a car. Don't let your car control your finances. Now pay attention to the rules that Rex follows and that people who build wealth follow. Simple rule: a car cannot consume your income. If your car is consuming a large portion of your income, something is wrong. High plot, high insurance premium, high costs. This means you are working to hold an object, and not the other way around. Rex sums it up simply. If your car is stressing you out at the end of the month, it's too expensive. Buy less of a car than you can afford. This is one of the most powerful decisions you can make. Most people do the opposite. They buy as much as they can afford to buy. But those who build wealth do things differently. Buy less, spend less, and use the difference to invest. Now think about it. You don't need a $70,000 car. You need a car that works, safe, reliable, and that it doesn't destroy your financial life. Avoid long-term financing. 5, 6, 7 years. This is not a purchase. This is a long-term commitment. The longer the time frame, the more interest you pay. The longer you stay in jail, the longer you'll be stuck there. If you need 7 years to pay off a car, this car is beyond your reach. Simple as that. Prioritize freedom over appearance. This is the most important point. You want to look good, or do you want to be free? Because these two things often come into conflict. A beautiful car attracts attention, but financial freedom changes your life. Now, let Rex say something directly. Freedom makes no noise, but it changes everything. Use the car as a tool, not as a status symbol. A car is a tool. It serves to take you from point A to point B. When it becomes a status symbol, it ceases to be a tool, and it becomes a trap. And that's exactly where many people get lost. You can keep doing what everyone else does, financing an expensive car, paying interest, and repeating the cycle. But you can also do it differently. You can choose to build wealth. You can choose to invest. You can choose to leave the financial race. Understanding this decision completely changes your trajectory. Because small choices, done consistently, they create huge results over time. We are now reaching the final part. And in the next chapter, Rex will show you an even clearer picture. The impact that this single decision can have throughout your entire financial life. Now let's connect everything. Because up to this point, you have seen the purchase, the installment interest depreciation, the cycle of status, the invisible cost. But it all comes down to one thing: a decision. The decision of how you use your money. And that's exactly the decision, repeated over time, which defines your financial future. Now, let Rex show you this in a simple way. Two people, same salary, same starting point, same city, same reality. Person 1 decides to finance an expensive car. Person 2 decides to spend less and invest the difference. In the first year, the difference seems small. In the second, it's not very visible yet. In the third, it's starting to appear. On the fifth, it's already clear. And after 10, 15, 20 years, these two people are living completely different lives. The difference wasn't luck. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't an opportunity. It was a decision. Now, let Rex use a simple metaphor. Financial life is like driving on a long road. Minor adjustments to the steering wheel, they completely change destiny. At first, the difference seems invisible, but with time, you are in a completely different place. Now think about it. Every financial decision you make today, it is shaping your future. And many of these decisions seem small. A car, a loan, a portion. But over the years, these decisions accumulate. You can view this decision as something normal, part of life. But in reality, it has a gigantic impact in the long term. Understanding the true cost of a car completely changes the way you view money. Now, let Rex be direct with you. The problem was never the car. The problem is the direction. Where are your decisions leading you? We are now nearing the end. And in the next chapter, we'll wrap all of this up with a simple truth that separates those who build wealth from those who spend their entire lives paying for things. Now let's talk about the difference that really matters. There is a very clear line separating two types of people. On one side, those who spend their whole life paying for things. On the other hand, those who spend their whole life building wealth. Now pay attention to this. Most people focus on increasing their income, earn more, work more, to get promoted. This is important. But there's a common mistake in that. Believing that earning more money automatically leads to wealth. That's not true. Because wealth isn't about how much you earn. It's about what do you do with what you earn. Now let Rex show you this in a simple way. A person earns well, but has car payments, mortgages, and high expenses. Someone else earns less but invests, controls costs, and avoids unnecessary debt. After a few years, who is doing better? The second person. Because she built a foundation. High income without financial control is just money slipping through your fingers. Now let Rex connect this to the car. When you take on a large loan, you are setting a fixed cost every month for years, and that limits everything. It limits your ability to invest. It limits your ability to take risks. It limits your freedom. If an opportunity arises tomorrow, a business, an investment, a life change, do you have the freedom to act? Or is there a portion holding you back? Now, let Rex be direct. Debt reduces options, and wealth creates options. You can keep accumulating things, raising your standard of living, but you can also choose to build freedom. People who build wealth think differently. They don't ask, "What can I buy?" They ask, "What can I build?" We are reaching the final part. The difference between someone who drives an expensive car and who directs their own life. Now, let's talk about control. Because in the end, that's what really matters. Who controls your decisions? Who controls your life? You wake up every day, go to work, pay your bills, repeat the cycle. And that seems normal. The more financial commitments you take on, the less control you have. Car payments, credit cards, financing. This creates dependence. Now let Rex be direct. When you have many financial commitments, you lose your freedom. You can't take risks. You can't change. Do you believe you are improving your life by buying better things? At the same time, you may be reducing your freedom. Understanding the impact of your financial decisions is a game changer. There are two types of people: those who drive expensive cars and those who direct their own lives. With time, the second one has something far more valuable: choice. Financial freedom isn't about luxury. It's about control. It doesn't come from consumption. It comes from strategy. We are now nearing the end. A simple decision which can completely change the way you view money. Continue automatically, or think differently. Change doesn't begin with money. It starts with awareness. You start to notice patterns. You start to see the game. Now, let Rex show you how this plays out. You walk into a car dealership, and for the first time, don't think about the installment. You think about the total cost, the long-term impact, what that money could be building. And suddenly, the decision changes. You can choose to build wealth. You can choose to invest. You can choose freedom. This decision separates two paths. One leads to a cycle of debt. The other leads to growth. You don't need to be perfect, but you need to start. It lies in the decisions repeated over time. We've reached the final chapter. Now let Rex close this up simply. You were never just buying a car. You were buying installments, fees, commitments, and years of your financial life. The problem was never the car. The problem was the way it was purchased. Without a strategy, it's one of the most expensive decisions. You don't need a better car to evolve. You need better decisions. While you're paying for things, someone else is getting rich off of it. Which side do you want to be on? If you watched until the end, write in the comments, "Raccoons don't finance cars." Click on the video popping up now. The next one will change even more the way you see money. Click it now and stay with me.